Good afternoon and welcome to the latest edition of the Married with Children documentary, The Ladies of Married with Children, or The Girls of Married with Children. This episode is in relation to guest actresses who appeared in Married with Children throughout the 11 seasons of the hit TV comedy show, which was a cable sensation all across the United States in the 1980s and the 1990s. It was one of the founding shows of Fox TV, and it sort of put the Fox network on the map. So far, we're speaking to actresses from all the 11 seasons, guest actresses who played a role. This week, we go to season 3. We go to episode 16. The episode in question was called The House That Peg Lost. And one of the actresses who played a role in this episode, she played one of Kelly Bundy's classmates, one of her girlfriends, her best friends. The character was Charlene. The actress involved who played Charlene was Laurie Shires. And I'm delighted to have Laurie with us today. Laurie, 1989. 1989, does it almost feel like a different lifetime ago from the time that you walked into the set of Married with Children for the very first time?
It feels like many lifetimes ago. Honestly, it's such a far look back, but it was a wonderful and fun time in my life. So it's also a fun look back.
And I suppose, Laurie, in terms of, tell me, back in 1989, were you a young college student? Were you just out of college, or was this one of your first acting gigs? Had you done much in terms of modeling or acting? Had you moved to LA, or how did it come about that you got involved in Married with Children? Because I'm just looking here, I'm presuming that was one of your first gigs in the industry.
Yes, it was. Well, I was in high school. I was a high school girl. I want to say it was my senior year of high school. And
so you're around 17, so.
I was 17. That's right. Okay. And I had really just been acting for less than a year professionally at that point. And it was when I got my driver's license, I could finally take myself to auditions. That was kind of how it all began. And I grew up in LA, always wanting to act professionally. And so this was a huge moment for me because Married with Children gave me my first professional job.
Okay. And Laurie, did you have a talent agent at the time in terms of trying to secure you auditions, or how did you see it somewhere that the show were looking for teenage girls, or how did it come to your attention in terms of Married with Children? Were you sort of driving around with your parents, knocking on doors to see if you land auditions? Because I imagine as a 17-year-old girl just in high school at the time, to try and know where auditions were in the first place, not alone to land them, was probably near or next to impossible.
So I had an agent. And how I secured that agent, I can barely remember, but I think I had to do a monologue in her office, and she took me on. What's funny is that where I live now, I can almost see where this office was. It's so close to where I live now. But her name was Natalie Rawson. She was a really nice woman, and she sent me and a girlfriend of mine, Kristen Piercy, on this call for Married with Children. What she didn't know was that I knew David Faustino. And David and I had become friends through a little bit of an older guy in our neighborhood who had a house, and it was like a young Hollywood hangout kind of thing. So I knew David a little bit, and I didn't know him well enough to say, hey, I'm coming over to audition for your show. But of course, he was there at the callback. And I'm pretty sure he had something to do with me getting the part, but we've never talked about it. But we were friends. And so I got the part, and my friend Kristen also got the part. So she and I were able to beat each other up on camera for our first jobs on television.
And
can you believe Charlene? What a loser. God, I hate her.
She's so phony.
And a boring slob. She couldn't turn a boy on with a switch.
I know, she's so
What a lame girl. Oh, hi, Charlene. You look great. We were just saying that you must have to beat the boys off with a stick.
My turn.
God, I hate her. She's
Good evening, ladies. Just a little reminder. When you get tired of the endless drone of girlish chatter, step up to pleasure. Step up to Club Bud.
Get out of here, you little she-male.
No, that's okay. Let him stay. I think he's cute.
You and the rest of the world, babe.
Oh, Bud, you drive me crazy. Let me give you something special. Close your eyes. Pucker up, baby.
Come on, baby, give me all you got. Ha ha, very funny, very funny. Just another fine example of bimbo wit. I'm done, finished. I'm going upstairs.
Oh, Bud, before you go, can you say, I'm drinking milk, and one day I'm gonna be big and strong.
Tee-hee, Kel. Oh, by the way, I almost forgot. There were a few messages for you. Let me see. Oh, Dan Peterson called. He said tomorrow night behind the 7-Eleven will be fine.
Bud, I don't think that anybody wants to hear this.
Dan Peterson, that's my boyfriend.
Oh, is he? Gee, Kelly thinks he's hers. Oh, well, let's see. Greg Barnett called, too. You have a date with him Tuesday. Oh, and wear something tight.
Wait a minute. I'm dating Greg.
Uh-oh. Well, let's see. Whose boyfriend is Bobby Briccato?
Mine.
Well, you guys have a lot to talk about. Good night.
You're seeing my Greg?
And Dan?
Well, I wasn't gonna keep him.
Chow.
Trollop.
Tramp. Slut. Bundy.
Yum, yum, give me some.
Laurie, in terms of, you mentioned your first job in television. I suppose Married with Children, it was in season 3 at that stage. It was beginning to peak, dare I say, all across the United States. It was on a rapid rise to the sort of top, especially after the first 2 seasons. So it was probably a good time to get in on the show in terms of it being its popularity, in terms of being seen all over across America. You mentioned as a 17-year-old, your first gig, walking onto that set in terms of Married with Children for the first time. Were you apprehensive? Were you very nervous?
I was nervous. I was so nervous, but I was so excited. It was thrilling. I'd been on, I've been on the lot, Paramount lot, and all the places where you go and you audition. But it was my first time being at a big table read with the whole cast, and then walking in and blocking the scene that we had, which was a little bit more complicated because there was some fighting going on, and the whole thing was just absolutely thrilling. And we shot in front of a live audience, which was also really, really great.
Yeah, and you mentioned that shooting in front of a live audience, and that was probably the first time you did that as well, in terms of a live sort of network sort of show. In terms of, I know pre-rehearsing a sort of a stage fight in terms of cameras, you can do it in multiple takes. When you're doing it in front of a live show, does it almost feel like a bit insecurity that the fight mightn't look as good as what it done in the previous takes?
To tell you the truth, my biggest concern was that somebody was going to see my underwear. I don't
Okay.
know why I was so worried about that, but that was the big concern.
And Laurie, in terms of your parents' your reaction to the time when you landed the gig and started Married with Children, I suppose it was later on. I suppose it got more racy and more sort of adult, sort of themed. So I suppose at the time we were playing a teenager on set, I suppose there wasn't really much objections from your parents. I suppose they were
No,
delighted.
they were excited that I was making this idea that I had had since I was a little girl real, and they were super proud.
And tell me, it aired on April the 9th, 1989. Can you remember, were you with family? Were you with friends, relatives when it aired? Were you sitting down watching it at home? Had you your best friends over, or your college sort of, your high school mates over? Was it shown in your local small pub or small town hall where you are? Or what are your
I wish
memories of?
I wish I had a memory of the surroundings, but I don't. I do remember that I was with Kristen, the other girl who was in the show with me, because she and I were best friends. So I remember that we watched it together, but I don't remember if we had like a viewing party or anything like that.
And in terms of the buzz and the adrenaline, working on the set in Married with Children, working with the likes of Ed O'Neill, for example, and Katie Segal, did it start to really whet the appetite to come out and do more in terms of comedy TV shows in particular, if the opportunities were there for you?
Absolutely. Yeah, I had such a good experience. I loved it. And Ed O'Neill was such a fatherly figure to us on the set. He was really sweet. And what's sweet now is that I have a 13-year-old son, and our favorite show as a family is Modern Family. So he gets to see Ed O'Neill every week in our living room too. And I've shared fond memories of the Married with Children experience with him too. And it's funny how little he's interested in seeing it. It's you know it's like it's ancient history, so he's less interested.
And Laurie, in terms of the arriving on the set of Married with Children, were you really given speaking to a few of the actresses so far, even if there was one of their first gigs in the industry, they couldn't get away over the sort of 5-star treatment they were given in terms of their own dressing room, in terms of makeup, in terms of wardrobe, in terms of getting food, in terms of being everything they wanted was catered for their own needs. Had you sort of a similar experience?
Totally. And it's funny because I had nothing to compare it to. So I just thought, oh, this is always how it is. And then learned very quickly in the subsequent years that that's not always how it is. But we had a tutor on set because, again, I was still in high school. And yeah, everything was taken care of. It was fun to work with David and see him at work too. And yeah, it was great.
And I suppose, Laurie, you mentioned David, but you also worked a good bit with Christina. And I suppose Christina was probably, her star was rising all across the United States in terms of her role as sort of Kelly. And as sort of a young actress, did you, probably around the same age as yourself at the time, did you sort of hit it off?
Yeah, she was very friendly. I think we all went to lunch. I'm pretty sure we went to lunch together. Yeah, she was lovely. I think that we would have been friends in another life, like another circumstance. It just was that, she had this awesome job and I was going back to high school, but she was very, very cool.
Yeah, and I suppose, Laurie, in terms of your character, Charlene, she was one of Kelly's sort of friends. What did you see her in terms of the script? What way did you see? What type of a young teenager was Charlene? Was she just your sort of normal sort of teenage girl that was into her fashion and makeup and talking about boys and such and such?
Well, Jim, it was not a very well fleshed out character.
Yeah.
But in the story, two of the girls, Charlene and one of the other ones, they learn at the slumber party that they had been dating the same boy. And that's why the fight breaks out. So, I assume that there was a territorial element that, I wanted my boyfriend to be just mine. And, but that's truly about as deep as it went.
And I
There was
suppose
there was no huge backstory.
And I suppose, Laurie, in terms of Married with Children, in terms of future gigs for you, having that on your resume, having that on your credits, did it really, a show reel as such, did it really open up doors for you in the coming months afterwards in terms of more opportunities? Obviously, having Married with Children as one of your first gigs on your resume is very impressive.
Yeah, I think it certainly opened the doors to more auditions, but it was still early in the show. It was popular, but it wasn't this, enormous thing that it became at that point, or at least I don't remember it that way. So for sure, I think it got me into some rooms that I wouldn't have gotten in otherwise.
And I suppose, Laurie, having appeared so early on in Married with Children in terms of season 3, was there ever a possibility maybe later on in season 10 or 11 getting a call back or further sort of opportunity, or were you on sort of a different path at the time? I know some characters played 1 or 2, came back once or twice later on. Was that ever an opportunity for you?
Not that I ever knew about. No, I mean, I would have been wide open to it. It would have been fun to do that again, but it wasn't something that was offered.
And I suppose, Laurie, at the time, in terms of Married with Children, when it aired in 1989, did you, as a young sort of teenager at the time, did you find the show funny in terms of its one-liners, in terms of its story, script? Were you sort of a fan? And when it's, I suppose, in the later seasons, when it got more sort of raunchier in terms of the portrayal of young female actresses as such, would you see it as what it was, like light-hearted entertainment? I know there was controversy, 1 or 2 cases, but did you always see it for what it was, humor and sort of light, real entertainment?
I enjoyed what I watched, and I was not a fangirl to the point where I was watching every episode and all the time. So I was a little bit aware of the controversy, but it was not something that I was following closely, and I wasn't watching it religiously.
And later on, Laura, you mentioned you knew David Faustino as such. Did you ever get the opportunity to work with any of the cast of Married with Children ever again, in terms of Ed O'Neill, Katie Segal? Did you ever meet him a few years down the line, or did you cross paths with him?
David and I stayed in touch a little bit. I think he was doing some music some years back, and we would occasionally see each other. But other than that, not really.
I suppose, Laurie, in terms of the sort of catfight and the sort of stage scene, I suppose that's what people remember you for in your episode as sort of such. In terms of acting out a fight on sort of camera, one of your first gigs, when you started the script, yourself and Krista Pierce, were you a bit sort of, how did you envision it in your own heads, in terms of how the fight would be choreographed?
I pictured it being longer and wilder. And as it turned out, it was just, it was a couple beats in the story. But yeah, in my imagination, we were like all rolling on the floor and beating each other up, and lots of punches and kicks, and it was really less than that.
And I suppose, Laurie, even to this day now, Married with Children is seen all over the world, and it's dubbed in so many different languages, and so many new millions of generations of new sort of adolescents are getting to see Married with Children for the very first time and getting to relive your episode as sort of such. Does that sort of fill you with a sort of sense of joy that people all over the world, even 30, 40 years on, are getting to watch your episode maybe for the very first time in Married with Children?
I love that idea. Yeah, I love that. I mean, it's funny, when you go through life, you don't know what the things that you do are that will touch the most people. And, it's fun. It's fun to think that that's something that brings somebody joy so many years after. Sure.
And I suppose, Laurie, the last question before I let you go now, and I'll probably rack your brains in such, but you probably give me an answer earlier on, but let's pretend there was a Married with Children encyclopedia, a dictionary as such, and they were putting all the fictional characters who have played a role in Married with Children over the 11 seasons into that dictionary, and they came across your character, Charlene, in season 3, episode 16, and they got in touch with your talent agent at the time, saying, now, and she got on to you and she said, listen, they're doing a Married with Children documentary. They left two encyclopedia. They've left 2 sentences blank under your character description of Charlene. They would like, having portrayed the role, they would like you to write those 2 sentences. Laurie Shires, what would you like those 2 sentences to read?
Oh, let's see. Charlene was a lover and a fighter.
Charlene was a lover and a fighter. Only 1 sentence needed. Laurie Shires, an absolute pleasure talking to you today to relive your memories of your time in Married with Children. You appeared on the live cable TV across the United States on April the 9th, 1989. You appeared in the episode The House That Peg Lost. It was in season 3, episode 16. You played the role of Charlene. It's a pleasure talking to you today to relive your memories of your time of Married with Children. You are one of those fraternity of Married with Children, one of the actresses who appeared in Married with Children. That fraternity is now closed. No one else can actually join that list. It's a list that includes Denise Richards, Pamela Anderson, Miliva Jovovich, Shayna Wall, Jennifer Lyons, Krista Allen, and the list goes on and on and on. You are part of that fraternity, and it was a pleasure talking to you today. And we wish you a prosperous 2021, Laurie.
Thank you so much, Jim. It was a pleasure to talk to you.
Cheers. Take care.
Bye.